remember a few years ago when Top Gear was presented by Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May, and they first did that amphibious car challenge on that lake?
So I was in the water with no drive, but that was the least of my problems. Oh no, it's sinking!
Well, that lake that we shot that sequence at is where they filmed that Top Gear special. Not relevant to this video at all in the slightest, but interesting fact of the day. So yesterday, me and Holly went for a walk around Rudyard Lake, which, as I mentioned, is where they shot that Top Gear special. And I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to take the Sony A7C that I'm filming this on right now and make a little cinematic, I say cinematic, it's not really very cinematic, a little sequence, and take a few photos as well that I will show you in a second. And in this video, talk about why the Sony A7C for me is the perfect all-round camera for video and photography. So let's get into it. So the first reason that this is the perfect photo and video camera for me is the size of it. Now, even though this is a full frame camera, it is still very compact. It is almost the size of an APS-C sensor camera body, which is absolutely brilliant. It means you can just chuck it in your camera bag, gently of course, making sure you're taking good care of your camera gear, but you can just chuck it in your bag. You've got plenty of space for other things as well. Maybe you've got a few lenses that you want to take with you. You won't have any trouble with space when you're carrying this camera, and the quality you get from it is incredible for the size of it. The second reason that this is the perfect camera is the flip out screen. Now, this is something that I've been without for the last couple of years because I was using the Canon M6 Mark II, which does have a adjustable screen, but it flips up, which means if you've got a mic on top of the camera, which I often do, then you can't use the screen because the mic is in the way of the screen. To be able to have a flip out screen that flips out to the side of the camera, I'm showing this like that, that doesn't make any sense, but to be able to have a screen that flips out to the side of the camera, I underestimated how much I did actually use it on my previous camera before the Canon M6 Mark II. So to have a flip out screen again, perfect. And it makes it so much easier when you're shooting things like portraits as well, or shooting at the low angle, because if you're shooting down low to the ground, you've not got to be getting you low to the ground with your head as well to try and see what's on the screen. You can just maneuver the screen so you can easily see what you are shooting. And it's perfect when you're shooting portraits as well, because exactly the same reason. Now, reason number 3 is autofocus in 120 frames a second. Now, having used this in that little sequence that you saw before, it is amazing. Now, 120 frames a second is only in 1080p. That for me isn't a deal breaker. I think it still looks incredible, and to have the autofocus just makes everything so much easier. Before, when I was using my Canon M6 Mark II, I used to have to use the manual focus ring on the lens to try and manually focus while shooting in 120 frames a second, and you could get some good stuff, but I'd have never been able to get any shots like this that you saw in the opening sequence. And that brings me onto dynamic range, because this is another thing that I wouldn't have been able to do with my Canon M6 Mark II, because it was an APS-C sensor camera, much smaller sensor than in the Sony A7C, which is a full frame. So if you look at these pictures that I took yesterday, you have the pictures of the boats on the lake, and everything is perfectly sharp. You've not got anything blown out, the sky is nicely in focus, the boats are all well exposed, and it all looks really nice and sharp as well. And if I show you these portraits of Holly that I took, you can see that even though I'm shooting this at a low aperture because I've got the nice depth of field, Holly is perfectly sharp and in focus and well exposed, and the background, even though it is nice and blurred, it is not overexposed at all. Now, because I'm shooting at that wider aperture, to be able to still get the definition in the background of the sky and the lake and not overexpose any of it in bright sunlight, which it was yesterday, that's incredible. Again, I wouldn't have been able to do that on my Canon M6 Mark II. And that is another reason for me why this is the perfect all-round camera, because if you couple that with the size of the camera, that you can just chuck in your bag, travel with it easily because it's so small, to get that quality picture out of it and that quality video, mind-blowing. Another reason that this is the perfect camera is the colours. Now, Sony's colour science has improved year on year. In every single camera that they bring out, the colours look better, and they're catching up, if not even better than Canon now for me. If you look at skin tones and natural colours, for me, Sony is at a par with Canon. And to get those colours, you really don't have to do much. It is so easy to use. You can use a standard creative style and the camera will do a lot of the work for you. You can make minor adjustments in Final Cut or Lightroom, whatever you're using to edit your video and photos, or you can go more deeply into it and use something like S-Log, S-Log2, S-Log3, HLG, Cine-like, or whatever. I've forgotten what the Cine one is called, but you can use something like that, and then you can have more creative style over your videos. And to have those range of choices is incredible. There's something for everyone. If you just quickly want to pick your camera up and take a shot, you can just not worry about the colours because you're using the standard creative style and you know it's going to look brilliant. Or you can go deeply into it, like I mentioned, and want to have more control over it. Take your time over the shot you're creating and have all the control in the world. And that in a camera this size and this price is incredible. And I really wanted to test out just how good this camera was in that sequence at the start of the video. So in that sequence was footage shot at 25 frames a second, 50 frames a second, 100 frames a second, footage in 1080p, footage in 4K, footage using just the IBIS in the camera, inbuilt image stabilization, and footage using Sony Catalyst stabilization, which is a piece of software that you can use to stabilize the footage that you have shot on the Sony A7C. So there's a whole range of footage that I have used in that sequence. If you take out the drone footage that was at the very start, everything was shot on the Sony A7C. And even though it's filmed in 1080 and 4K and different frame rates, it all just looks incredible, and it is such an easy camera to use and an easy camera to get great results from, whether you want to just quickly take a picture or a video or take your time over getting the right shot. You really can do everything with this camera, which again is another reason why it's the perfect all-round photo and video camera, because you've got everything at your fingertips. You don't need to worry about having a good camera for taking photos, a good camera for taking videos. You don't need to worry about whether you're a beginner, an intermediate or a professional, because I think literally everyone can get something out of this camera, no matter what experience level they are, no matter what they're trying to do. If you're a beginner, you'd definitely be able to use this camera. If you're an intermediate, I think you'll be more than happy with this camera. And if you're a professional shooting weddings or whatever, I think you'll still be able to use this camera. It is awesome. I love it. So there are a few reasons why I think the Sony A7C is the perfect camera for photography and video. And if you are after one camera to do both of those things, I think you should really consider the Sony A7C. So that is it for this video. And also, it's the last time you're going to see this studio because things are changing. I'm not going to be making videos in here anymore, as you will see at some point next week. I'm also probably going to be without internet for about 2 weeks, which is going to be very strange and weird, but everything will become clear. I will try and find a way of uploading another video at some point, because I don't want to leave it 2 weeks between uploads. But I'm still making videos, I will still be on YouTube, just not in this studio. Things are changing. I'm excited, very excited about it. Everything will become clear. If you're not already subscribed, click that little subscribe button just down below there. Come and be a part of this community. Click the thumbs up button as well on this video, and I shall see you all in another video.